I'm not even mad with Kamen Rider Geats episode 21. Uh, it gave me some, like, a sigh of relief based on my review of episode 20 that, there was a bait and switch with finding the disaster mission card. Oh, by the way, Nerd Name Mark here. I'm reviewing episode 21 of Kamen Rider Geats. Yay. Um, but yeah, this episode kind of gave me that, like, I was happy because Daichi is back. Like, we got the bait and switch for the disaster, like, mission card. We got new form with the vision driver. Like, there was so much stuff in this episode, and I'm just like, how am I going to review this without, like, making another long video? Because I'm trying to make these shorter and I'm failing. So I'm not going to be talking about a lot of the fluff stuff. I will say one of the cool things is I mentioned Daichi coming back, and I was curious what Azuma, being, like, a Jamato rider, coming back into the fray as a rider with a sponsor, thanks to Baroba. And so we got this cool hijack scene in the beginning where, like, basically Buff was walking through his Jamato garden, cutting a promo on the DGP and the Common Riders. And, I was just like, that was a cool little scene to see, because I was wondering, hey, if he's got a sponsor now and he's a rider, like, is he a part of the show? Because we don't really have the answers to that. Um, and bringing up, if he is, he can get a wish. He can, get that, and we finally find some of the motivation of what Archimetal and Baroba, from a Jamato team rider team standpoint, what they're after. And they said they can grant his wish because their goal is to steal the goddess of creation, who is currently being held by the DGP, and apparently that is a person who grants the wish. And I'm like, what is the goddess of creation? Because we're 21 episodes in, so we're basically almost at the halfway point. We're, a couple weeks away from that. And I'm just like, what? Huh? You're just gonna drop? And I was just like, instantly, I paused it and I was like, okay, this is something. Um, and then I was like, no, I can't speculate. I was like, let me finish the episode, because context is key. I need to see if anyone else brings this up, and they don't. But honestly, I completely forgot that it was, like, the time bomb game. Just because, like I said, the games feel like they're very secondary right now to everything else. They're not at the forefront like they were before. So, I kind of just was like, oh yeah, no, I forgot when Kayla saved Sarah last week. Like, that wasn't the end of the game. That was just a round because no one was eliminated and whatnot. So I was like, okay. Um, and this time around, the main people that are, trapped by bomb is Sai's family. And I was actually curious after last week's episode how much of her story was true, if any of it was fabricated uh towards Nan. And now, especially because of the whole, disaster card with her holding it, I was like, maybe all that was a lie. But it was true. So I was like, oh, okay, she wasn't really making everything up. Uh like I said, the missions really aren't, the games themselves aren't really doing it for me. Like, I mean, we get some cool action sequences of, you know, Keiwa and Ace dodging some bombs and everything else, but it's like, the only cool thing, which I hate, was at one point, you know, Ace saves some people with Keiwa there, and they clear a mission. And we get new mission boxes. They get two of them, they get one each, and they have Tycoon's ID core symbol on them. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm gonna buy those mission boxes when they're released on Bandai. And I was like, maybe. And I looked, they're not on there, but I was like, they're gonna get released. Like, I mean, everything in Kamen Rider now becomes merch, so I will be picking those up because it's Tycoon related. Keiwa is the main character to me because he's good. He's so good. So with the loot, Ace got his boost buckle. Keiwa got the fever buckle. So I was like, okay, this will be good. I brought up Daichi being back made me really happy, because of how intelligent he was and how, like, just a good character like that, observant, knows, very knowledgeable, critical thinking skills are there. So I like him as a character. And he's basically their advisor. And it shows because, and you can see where it works out because at one point while Nago and Lobo are fighting, he realizes the best way for uh, Azuma to like, you know, become stable and functioning as a rider is with his zombie buckle. He needs that back. And I the whole scenes with Buffa fighting Lopo and the whole entire time Nago is trying to stop him and he's just he steals he gets the buckle obviously, but he's putting a beating on Lopo. Like what are the beatings where I'm like, damn, like he's got family. Like just stop. Like I was like JR back in the day from Attitude Era freaking WWE. I'm like, oh my god, she's got a family. Like you're gonna break her in half. But like he was just dominating. And then we got a cool scene where he's about to hit the finish kick on her, and we see Nago make the save and take the brunt of the hit in the engine. And I was like, okay, like this really like the dynamic between Naon and Say has been really good. I'm like by the end of this episode when we realize everything, I was just like, okay, this everything all their interactions and everything else made sense to the decision that was made later on. But I do like that we're finally getting, you know, Ace smart enough to be like, hey, Nan's dad is a sponsor for the DGP. Let's, pull some strings because he gets a sit down brunch or lunch with Niram. And they basically are the main discussion, obviously, being Buffa and his disruptions at the DGP because Ace has had enough of this. But they also planted some more seeds to push the narrative forward about the dimension hopping tourist and the producer because he says, he doesn't seem like he's from this era. And then even Niram brings up that Ace's skill in him constantly winning the DGP since he has joined means he could possibly not be from the same era either that they're currently in. And I'm just like, what the like how? Like what like this is just like that was a big thing to digest in this episode because I was like, okay, but like we haven't gone into all this other pocket dimensions and in a different era. This that was like we haven't explored this enough, and we're getting all these nuggets of stuff about that. And I'm like, listen, can I just get one like breadcrumb to go forward instead of all these parallel breadcrumbs that are probably going to branch off in all these different story directions? I was like, come on, like, can we just, a little bit, please? Like, can I get a little more pushing forward of that instead of the more of an air of mystery added to the mystery of the mystery of the mysteries? Probably not. Um, Probably within another episode or two, we're gonna have to have some sort of big reveal, just because from an arc standpoint, this is like the fourth or fifth episode into the arc, and I think with it dwindling down to the final three right now, it would make sense if we're going like every other episode, someone getting eliminated. So probably, we'll be at our final two by probably episode 23. I would like at least a little bit of a push forward in that element of the story of the different dimensions, maybe some more stuff about the sponsors and supporters, just a little bit. So the disaster card finally comes into play from a story element where the bait and switch from last week comes into play because when they find the base and it's just Nan and Say stops her before she connects and she's like, hey, we got to talk about something. She holds up the disaster mission card. And I was like, okay, this is that now we're going to see, like, into my head, I'm like, is she going to admit that she's a disaster or did she find it? Because I'm like, what would be the point of her, showing that, we get some cool fighting again. Like the action wasn't bad. We do get these glints of good highlight moments. There was a scene where Lopo's like, she wants to save her family, do whatever it takes. She steals the fever buckle from Kawa, which And she gets the boost form, because she needs to get rid of it. Basically, she reveals she's a disaster, and she said if she can get rid of two of them, she'll win because it'd be just between her and one other person. Um, that all stuff was cool and all, but like the main thing I loved about this episode was we had Buffa show up, and Niram interjects and stops him, and he says he's a stain on his reality, and that he was curious because he was eliminated, yet here he is. And then he takes out that freaking vision driver. Like I said, this made me want that driver. I need it. I need it so much. You don't understand. I have a pre-order. It's day one purchase when it's released. Uh his henshin was so clean. Cleanest henshin. Loved it. The suit for was it Gazer was so like I love the silver, the gold, a little bit of white in there. Like if this gets a figure, I'll buy it. Like I'll get the Soto, but if this gets like a SH figure, like I will buy it because that is such a good suit. I kind of like it more than Glare, honestly. Uh, but there is, I will say, uh, because it's Kamen Rider, we got a motorcycle scene. Like we did, like in the middle of this, we got a motorcycle scene where Ace is using his boost buckle. He's using the motorcycle to try and get to the boss faster, while Say is defeating all these other ones, and we get a cool little falcon punch, so to speak, from Geats, and at the same time, Say is charging up, and she actually defeats the main boss, and we see the wire colors, and she leaves, obviously. But before that, I don't know what's going on, honestly. There's if Buffa and Geats are like rivals, uh, I don't know who Kawa's rival would be from a rider standpoint, but obviously the boost buckle's got beef with this kid because it always shoots off after you use it, and that thing launched off, flew around, and knocked him in the head. And I was like, man, what? Like, there's something like I don't know what's going on between him and that boost buckle, but the thing's got it out for him. Honestly, I want to go back to this fight between uh Gazer and Buffa because it was such a good fight. And I like how, because of the different forms with the people who have used the vision driver, the orbs do different things. Like glares would take over people and control them, whereas gazers form a square and a protective barrier that block punches, all of Buffa's attacks. And I thought that was really cool. And then I'm going to say this from one of the most disrespectful scenes in Kamen Rider. Buffa's on his stomach, laying on the ground. He there literally stands on man's back to do his finishing attack. And his finishing attack, literally, it just says delete. And all the orbs just hover around him. He floats up in the air. We get all those crazy visuals and then just orbs exploding. And I noticed right as the explosions were happening, Buffa used the zombie buckle. And I was like, that's cool. I really enjoyed that a lot. And to the point where it didn't seem like Buffa wasn't destroyed because he's sitting there in his zombie form struggling to get up and like kind of like hunches back, and even Niram is impressed. Even says, "You cheated that twice now," and he kind of just dehensions and walks away. By the way, so like family saved. Nan makes the save at the last second. I don't really want to go over all that stuff because I really it's whatever. But when they're going for voting, 4 people vote for Say. She even votes for herself. Even Kawa questions why she voted for herself, and she just walks away. And Neon, runs after her into her room. And Say says she found the card in Neon's room. And, we get a scene where, like, that cutaway with the apple bomb in the last episode where it made it look like it was Lopo who threw the bomb. You actually see her run up to the fence and look over, and you could see her catch Neon hiding around the corner. So I was like, all right, you got me. Like I got upset that they were doing the cop out, but the fact that they did make Neon or even any of them like one of the OG characters that have been around for a while, the disaster, I give them credit for that. That was actually really cool. And the whole thing was because Say said she wants Neon to find her happiness. I mean, they had been getting close lately, so it makes sense from that standpoint, especially because she has her family. She has this love. They're always going to be there. Whereas Neon is trying to find, you know, her true love and everything else. So it makes sense, but at the same time, I'm like, you kind of just like selflessly gave up your wish that you were fighting so hard for. But I guess Buff is a part of the whole DGP now because he's actually in the popularity and he actually has 7% with the fans. And at 28%, we have Tycoon and Neon tied, and then Geats is leading at 37. And then we also find out through Neon confronting our very annoying game master, who wasn't really in the episode, so I was happy about that. That he left the card there as a prank, and I was like, okay, that's just kind of getting stupid, honestly. But we got serious Neon now because even at the end, she's like, I'm no longer holding back, and I'm like, ooh, okay, she's gonna put in the work. We also get a new DGP rule that says the audience may freely endorse any Kamen Rider they wish. So I'm still waiting to see who's endorsing Neon because that would be intriguing. But yeah, this was a good episode. I didn't hate it. Like I said, it was really good. The Niram and Buffa stuff really are the shining star of this episode to me. I think that's been kind of consistent with Buffa ever since he was brought back. Like his scenes steal the show. I love his henchman still in the sense like he's one of the more intriguing characters on the show right now. So I'm really enjoying everything with that. I don't really have any theories right now. Now that we have Neon as the confirmed as the disaster, I'm like, all right, well, we'll have to figure something out. Like, I don't know. But that's all I really have for the episode. Let me know in the comments below what you think of episode 21 now that Neon is the disaster. But if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like the video. That being said, I thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.